we're all set. Thanks.
Okay. So today is March 24th, and this is the Orleans Parish School Board business meeting for the month of March. Because we're doing this by teleconference, I just want to set out sort of the rules of how this meeting will proceed. Today we are all abiding by the CDC and the governor's guidelines for gatherings given the public health emergency related to coronavirus. Under the circumstances, the governor has updated an executive order to allow for public agencies to conduct meetings by teleconference or video conference, which is what we are doing here today. Please note the following meeting norms before we formally get started. The meeting is being recorded for public meeting purposes. If you wish to make official public comment regarding any item on the agenda, you will need to enter the queue by clicking the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. So again, click the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. The meeting moderator will announce the speaker and unmute the audio at the appropriate time. As with any other meeting, please state your name and address for the record. Public comments will be limited to 2 minutes pursuant to OPSB. Any messages that are sent by the chat or the Q&A functions, which are also at the bottom of the screen, will be noted in the record for the Orleans Parish School Board, but will not be read as official public comment during the. If you need further instructions on how to make official public comment at today's meeting, a link to those instructions have been shared at the top of the chat function, and they also may be found on the Board Docs webpage, which is the same page where the agenda is typically posted. And for those who need to get to that page, the hyperlink is go.boarddocs, boarddocs.la/nops/board.nsf/public. Board members, your lines are muted and upon joining the broadcast. At roll call to make a comment or to make a motion or second a motion or to cast a roll call on any item, please unmute yourself. The audio button is located in the bottom left corner of your screens. Every action item will be a roll call vote to ensure that our record keeping has taken down the vote appropriately. Additionally, when making a motion and seconding a motion, please state your name along with what action is being taken so that the record keepers can take that down appropriately. Please remember to mute your line when you're not speaking so that the broadcast will be clear. And the general meeting format will be as follows. An action item or recommended action will be read. I will ask for a motion in a second. Public comment will be allowed, then discussion by the board members followed by a roll call vote on any item that has been properly moved and seconded. So with that, if there are no questions, I will yield to the board president to call the meeting to order officially.
All right. The time now is 3:01 p.m. And I'm going to call the board meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, March 24th of 2020. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Ashley.
Yes, present.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Ellison.
Here.
Mr. Kleben. Mr. Koppel.
Present.
Mr. Marshall.
Present.
Ms. Newell-Houston.
Here.
And also present is Dr. Henderson Lewis, the superintendent. At this point, I would like to yield to the board president.
Thank you so much. We have interpretation services available for this meeting. And at this time, I will yield to our interpreters. I think Stephanie first. Or whomever.
This is Rebecca Fleming.
Rebecca. Hey, you're here for this meeting. Yay.
Hello.
All right.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Si hay alguien que necesita servicio de interpretación al español, pueden llamar al siguiente número de teléfono 978-990-5000 y marcan código de acceso 707717 y el signo de número. Repito, 978-990-5000, código de acceso 707717, más el signo de número. Gracias.
Xin chào toàn thể quý vị, tôi tên là Việt, tôi là thông dịch viên. Nếu quý vị cần giúp, xin gọi phone số điện thoại của tay tôi. Số điện thoại là 504-256-2774. Cảm ơn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let us do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would follow me on 3. 1, 2, 3. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the United States of America
America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. Let us go to item 1.3, adoption of the agenda. Are there any modifications, deletions, or additions? Seeing none, I will yield for a motion.
Move to adopt the agenda as printed with no corrections.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We're going to do a roll call vote.
Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes,
Miss Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
yes,
Miss Newell Houston.
Yes.
The agenda is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to 2.1, adoption of the minutes. Are there any deletions, modifications, additions at this point in time? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion by Mr. Koppel. I have a second by Mr. Marshall. I will go for a roll call vote. I'll turn it over to Board Counsel.
Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
yes,
Miss Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
yes,
Miss Newell Houston.
Yes.
The minutes are adopted.
Thank you. At this time, I will yield to our superintendent for the superintendent's agenda.
Thank you, Board President Ashley, and good afternoon, everyone. As many of you know, what we're experiencing here in our city when it was a response to COVID-19, this is very, very unprecedented in our community, in our state, in our country, and we even can say in the world at this time. It's truly a challenging time for our community of healthcare officials, governmental officials, and our schools. But I just want to remind everyone that as a city, as a community, challenging times are things that are not new to us. But today, as I begin my report, I must say that it's very, very difficult. We know that COVID-19 has truly impacted our community, and what we are seeing right now is our members of our central office have been impacted. School-based employees have been impacted, parents, and many of our friends and loved ones that we all know. And we need to keep our thoughts and prayers with those who are still battling this virus, and also those who have lost their lives in our community thus far during this tragic time. And before I move forward, because we know members of our school community now have passed away from this virus and other members of our community, I'm going to ask for everyone to pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Again, we've done it before and we will do it again. And what I will say, as I continue to say, we're going to get through this together. I want to take this time to show my gratitude to so many different groups of individuals First, I'd like to thank our school board members for your leadership during a very, very tough time, from the resolution that you have passed and declared an emergency to the dollars that you have allocated for us as a school community to respond to COVID-19. We would not be here today if it wasn't for the members of our central office staff and my senior leadership team who have been working tirelessly. And I want to just thank them for everything that they do each and every day, even as we continue to work with our school leaders, which is my next group. We all know if it wasn't for those individuals that we count on every single day before this outbreak has happened, every single day, we count on our school leaders to lead our young people each and every day. And we know that they do that. But I must say, in this moment here, they continue to rise to the occasion. Week one, we closed school at the end of the day on March 13th. We started food service program by the beginning of Monday of the next week. And so that was because our school leaders are those types of individuals, and our teachers and support personnel for getting the packets and everything that our students needed in order to be ready to continue their education, even in the midst of this unknown situation that we're dealing with. We must show our gratitude to our mayor, Mayor Cantrell, the city of New Orleans, and other state officials for continuing to connect with our school district to make sure that we have the support that we need to continue to support our students and our families during this very, very tough time. And to our faith-based community, our nonprofit and other community partners that have reached out and just say, how can we help? We just need to let them know that we continue to appreciate them because they are here, they're supporting us as we support our young people here in the school system. So again, I must say it's a very, very tough time, but we are going to get through this together. When it comes down to the child nutrition program, again, we started the program on last Monday, but on last Wednesday, we started a full-scale citywide program to serve meals to our students. This program consists of 45 community distribution sites for the grab-and-go meals across the city of New Orleans to ensure that our family have easy access to breakfast and lunch for our young people every day. Again, this is truly a collaborative effort. And I also want again to thank our school leaders for making this happen and coordinating and working with our central office to again make this happen for our students and our families. To the North, the faith-based community, other business partners stepping in to also help doing this lunch program and breakfast program. We want to thank you as well. I'm proud to share that through the citywide feeding program, approximately 89,000 meals and counting have been served to students of Orleans Parish. We know schools provide more than academics for our young people. Our students count on our breakfast and lunch program every single day. And as a city, we want to make sure that our students are still able to get those nutritious meals, because at the end of the day, we know with the poverty that we have in our city, for many of our students, this is the only nutritious meal that they receive during the day. And so it's that important that we continue to do that for our students and families, even during this time of closure. So learning, we know learning must still happen. And so I'm pleased to share that our schools have quickly adjusted to the demands of providing learning from afar by developing plans to support all of our students. And if you follow our schools on social media, you can see all the creativity that's happening, how they're having online lessons, how they, one school on yesterday actually had the morning announcements for their kids via social media, and they're finding ways to still connect to our young people during this time, because our young people, it's tough for us, so we can only imagine what it is for them. And for the familiar faces that they're so used to seeing every single day, to connect with them in the ways that our schools have figured out how to make those connections, is remarkable. And so again, we want to thank our schools for continuing to find ways to connect with our young people during this very, very tough time. As a district, we have created an online toolbox of resources and have devoted on-call staff to support our schools as those needs continue to arise. And we're problem solving at the district level to help address gaps in internet access. Again, I'm very happy of the leadership of our board, because with the dollars that have been allocated, we have been able to order 5,000 Wi-Fi hotspots and 10,000 Chromebooks to support our students who are in need. And those items are on their way for us to be able to get those in the hands of our students. We have been working in close collaboration with our schools to finalize the plan, how those items will be distributed to our students, and it will be distributed to them based on need. Today, we had a conference call with our school leaders. We're staying very, very connected to them. We do know after the order of our governor, as schools have been closed and will remain closed until the 13th of April. And of course, we're going to wait to find out from our government officials if schools will be out even longer. But this is what I need to say, because I know as board members, I know as superintendent, I have received a lot of phone calls from our parents during this time. And parents, even especially of our seniors. And this is a very, very difficult time for all of our students, but especially for our seniors. And as I speak today about the seniors, I'm also speaking as the father because my daughter is a senior at Warren Easton High School. And I know it's very, very difficult for them. But also I can recall even when my daughter started pre-K3, she only went to pre-K3 for an entire week because of Hurricane Katrina. So her education stopped briefly on the very front end because of 2005 with Hurricane Katrina. And I know that's the experience of many of our families at this time. And now that this class of 2020 is completing their education, now it seems as though we have an abrupt ending. And what I want to share with our families on today is that graduation every year in our community, the New Orleans community, we celebrate with our families. And we need to assure you on today, as we continue to work with our state officials, we're going to do that. Your graduation date that may have been previously set, or whatever that date may have been for the month of May, it may not happen on that day, but what we can tell you is that we're going to celebrate with you all as soon as we get the clear to be able to move forward, to be able to gather again. But we have to follow the orders that we've been given in this moment to make sure that we all can remain well. And at the appropriate time, I promise you, as a school community, we're going to celebrate each and every one of you, the class of 2020, because you worked so very hard for that moment. So again, to our parents, to our young people, please know that your school board, the entire system, and the educators that you have interacted with all year long, we are in this together, and we're going to make sure that we're able to celebrate with each and every one of you. And again, when it comes down to the official date that we return, we've been given that initial date, but we are still going to follow the lead of our state officials and mainly our governor for additional information on exactly the date that we are returning. And lastly, I want our families to know that we're eagerly awaiting the results of One App. I know for many of you, you're also dealing with the crisis, but also looking forward to next year and trying to understand what's happening with enrollment for next year. So even with the closure of school, we anticipate the release of round one result later this month. Also, families should continue to submit early childhood applications through March 27th, which is the deadline. Early childhood families that complete their application by the deadline will receive additional information regarding an extension to provide the necessary documentation for these programs. As I close, I just want to go back to where I started. It's a very, very tough time in our city. But we know as a school community, we're going to continue to band and stick with our young people and our families. Where you may see others may have made decisions not to serve our family, we're just stepping up the safety of our employees who are working in the schools, and we're going to be there until they tell us we no longer can be there to provide those meals. Because again, as I said, our family and our young people are counting on those meals. So today, to the New Orleans community, just remember, we will get through this together, just as we always have gotten through every tragedy that we've been faced with. And we know how to stick together as a community. And I just thank each and every one of you on today for the support of our young people, because they need it. And as our board president often would say, you know, it's time to just show everyone some love. It's definitely time to show everyone some love during this tough time. Of course, we need to do it in the right way. We're not doing all that hugging that we're so used to as a community, but reach out to your friends, your family members, check on individuals, and just give that friendly call because it is very, very tough time. So, Mr. President, this concludes my report. And to our community, I just say thank you for getting us to where we are today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Superintendent. Truly appreciate your leadership in this moment. It's crazy to believe that it's been 5 years of your leadership. We received, you got to the 5-year mark during this time earlier this month, and best believe we will also have the opportunity to celebrate you, my friend, for all the dedication that you provided to our community. So we definitely want to say thank you for you and your leadership in this moment. I think I will also, if I can, take for a point of personal privilege, you know, sitting in the seat as board president in this moment has been definitely a scenario that I didn't necessarily expect. And so I just want to say thank you to my colleagues and particularly Sarah Houston for just stepping up and really helping during this moment of time of need during this crisis. You know, I also want to thank Karen Carter Peterson, Senator Karen Carter Peterson, Representative Jason Hughes, Congressman Cedric Richmond, obviously our Mayor, Mayor Cantrell, Councilmember Joe Giarrusso, and community members like Carlin Dinkler, and our robust organizations of communities who continue to support our young people, including DFER, City Year, and others. And so I just want to say thank you guys. Also thank to our parents and families during this time and educators. And most of all, just thank you to our students. Our students are continuing to show and lead. And I mean, I'm in a house with two, and they are probably more normal than us adults. And so I just want to thank our students for everything that they're doing in this moment to show us how we're supposed to lead. And I truly appreciate that leadership that they're showing. With that said, I will yield now to our board attorney to go through notice of intent and action items.
Item 4.1 is notice of intent. Notice of intent to revise policy CBF to enhance the current policy with more detail, structure, and rigor. And there doesn't need to be any action taken on that item. It's just the announcement of the notice. So we'll now move to section 5, our action items. Action item 5.1, approval of the proceedings by Board of Directors of the Orleans School Facilities Foundation. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves the proceedings of the Orleans School Facilities Foundation. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
No public comment for item 5.1.
Any board questions or discussion?
No.
Do a roll call vote. Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Ellison?
Yes.
Mr. Cleben? Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston?
Yes.
Action item 5.1 passes. Action item 5.2, request to voluntarily relinquish LEA status. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board suspends policy HAC section 3A, which limits the timing of requests to relinquish LEA status to the charter renewal period, and approves the request from James M. Singleton Charter School to relinquish its independent LEA status and enter the Orleans Parish School Board's LEA effective July 1st, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
No public comments for 5.2.
Any discussion by the board? If not, we'll do a roll call. Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Ellison?
Yes.
Mr. Cleben? Mr. Koppel?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston?
Yes.
That motion passes. Action item 5.3, request for independent LEA status. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves the request from Hines Charter School Corporation to allow Edward Hines Charter School to operate as its own local education agency, effective July 1st, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved. Waiving the reading of the resolution.
We have a
Not a
motion.
resolution.
It's not a resolution, but
It gives a resolution in the action item. I mean, it's the backup document.
I think this is just the,
it's 5.3.
Sorry, I'm moving forward. Well, yep, it also, the
yeah, it
backup,
does.
it calls it a resolution.
But it's actually just the,
It doesn't matter, roll calls anyway.
Yeah, we're doing roll calls anyway, yeah, so we'll be good.
Right. So we had a motion by whom?
I mean, Leslie, or Sarah, that's Sarah. Second by Leslie.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
None for 5.3.
Any discussion by the board? Okay. Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Miss Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Miss Newell Houston.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Action item 5.4. Request for Hines Charter School to operate its own LEA. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves the request from Hines Charter School Corporation to allow Edward Hines Charter School UNO campus to operate as its own local education agency effective July 1st, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
No comment on 5.4.
Any questions from the board? Okay, roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Miss Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Miss Newell Houston.
Yes.
Action item 5.4 passes. Action item 5.5, distribution of 2018-19 deferred revenues. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves distributing $10,150,832 in net deferred revenues from 2018 to 2019. May I have a motion?
So
moved.
Okay.
A second by John Brown.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
No public comments for 5.5.
Any questions from the board? Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Miss Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Miss Newell Houston.
yes.
Okay, item 5.5 passes. Action item 5.6, request to award RFP 20-0047 for risk management services. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves the proposal meeting the specifications, terms, and conditions for risk management consulting services from Arthur J. Gallagher, Inc. in the amount of $25,000 for an initial one-year period with the option to extend for 3 additional one-year terms, subject to board approval, and authorizes general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
None for item 5.6.
Any questions from the board? Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Miss Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Miss Newell Houston.
Yes.
Item 5.6 passes. Action item 5.7, request to award invitation to bid number 20 FAC 0027. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts the bid for modular unit lease and site work at Short School from Davy Shoring, Inc. in the amount of $820,000, including the options for alternate 1 for site demolition in the amount of $25,000, and the unit price for an additional lease of $5,000 per month, and authorizes general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the general contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments?
Public comments for item 5.6.
We're 5.7.
No public comments for item 5.7. I apologize.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison, Mr. Cleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Noel Houston.
Yes.
Item 5.7 passes. Next is action item 5.8, request to award Sylvania Williams Elementary School invitation to bid. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves Crescent Commercial Construction LLC for elevator addition and renovations at Sylvania Williams Elementary School in the amount of $705,400 and authorizes the general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments for item 5.8.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Roll call. Mr. Ashley, Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Ellison, Mr. Cleben,
Yes.
Mr. Koppel, Mr.
Yes.
Marshall, Ms. Newell
Yes.
Houston. Item 5.8 passes. Item 5.9, request for approval of invitation to bid number 20 FAC 0026. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts the bid for exterior waterproofing and roof drain replacement at Sarah T. Reed from Crescent Commercial Construction LLC for the amount of $237,900 to authorize the general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the general contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a
Second
second?
by John Brown.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comments?
No public comments for item 5.9.
Any questions from the board? Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston.
Yes.
Action item 5.9 passes. Next, action item 5.10, request to award invitation to bid number 20 FAC 0046. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts the bid for underground plumbing repairs at Samuel J. Green Elementary School from Arc Mechanical Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $189,500 and authorizes general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
None for 5.10.
Any questions from the board? Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston.
Yes.
Item 5.10 passes. Next, action item 5.11, request to award invitation to bid number 20 FAC 0024. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts the bid for L.E. Rob Wayne High School systems replacement from Roofing Solutions in the amount of $522,900 to include alternate number 1, upgrade and roof material in the amount of $6,250, and authorizes general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the general contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
No public comment for item 5.11.
Any questions from the board? Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Kleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston.
Yes.
Item 5.11 passes. Next, action item 5.12, contract amendment for project management services. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves the first contract amendment for a period of 90 days with CSRS for coronavirus grant and program management services in an amount not to exceed $175,000. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comments?
No public comments for item 5.12.
Any questions from the board? Roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Kleben, Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston.
Yes.
Item 5.12 passes. Next, action item 5.13, invitation to bid number 20 FAC-0023. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts the bid from Smith Construction Corporation in the amount of $733,910, which includes the base bid of $719,510 to refurbish the elevators in the Timbers office building, as well as the unit price number 1, 9 months of interim preventive maintenance in the amount of $14,400, and authorizes the general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
No public comment for item 5.13.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question quick, and I don't want
Mr.
to,
Ashley.
but I just want to
Oh,
call.
sorry, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Sharon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just calling our attention to this contract, and I'm not saying we shouldn't go forward with it, but the two bid prices, I understand they're $100,000 apart. As far as I know, Smith Construction does not manufacture elevators, and they're going to subcontract that out probably to Otis, which is the second lowest bidder. And I just want to make sure that we pay careful attention to this contract and not see it exceed the cost of what the primary contractor is what he bid, because I believe Otis is the one that's going to remanufacture those cars and all that equipment. But in the essence of emergencies, I'd say we move forward with it. But I would just ask that the facilities folks keep an eye on this, please, because it would be a shame to see this run over. Thank you.
Ms. Delcor, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to reassure Board Member Koppel that we will absolutely review that as we move through with this project.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. No public comments. Any other questions from the board? If not, roll call. Mr. Ashley,
No.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Kleben, Mr. Kleben has joined us.
Hello?
Yes, we're on item
Sorry, you can hear me now?
5.3.
Yes, I said yes.
Yes. Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Koppel, Mr. Marshall,
I abstain.
Ms. Newell Houston.
Yes.
Item passes. We have 1 no, 1 abstention, and 5 in favor. Next item, 5.14, approval of design contract for Concordia Architectural Firm. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board authorizes general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and Concordia architectural firm to design a renovation of the McMain High School auditorium. Based on the current estimated construction cost, the architect's fee would be $617,012. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Don Brown, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comments?
No public comments for item 5.14.
Any questions from the board? If not, roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
yes,
Mr. Cleben,
Yes.
Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston.
I recuse myself from the vote.
Okay, item 5.14 passes 6 yeas, 1 recusal. Next item, 5.15, approval of furniture, fixtures, and equipment purchases. It is recommended the Orleans Parish School Board authorizes the purchase of furniture, fixtures, and equipment at a total of $846,898.18 for the new Carr High School. May I have a motion?
so moved,
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comments on this item?
No public comments on this item.
Any questions from the board? And roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
yes,
Ms. Eben,
Yes.
Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Bill Houston.
Yes,
Item 5.15 passes. Next, action on 5.16, approval of design contract for Nano LLC architectural firm. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board authorizes general counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the Nano LLC to a renovation of the Douglas High School auditorium. Based on the current estimated construction costs, the architect's fee would be $478,210. May I have
So
a
moved.
motion?
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and any public comment?
No public comments on item 5.16.
Any questions from the board? If not, roll call. Mr. Ashley. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
yes,
Ms. Ellison. Mr. Cleben. Mr.
Yes.
Koppel. Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston.
yes,
Item 5.16 passes. Next, item 5.17, approval of contract amendment number 1 to increase program management fees. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves contract amendment number 1 to increase program management fees to include program management services for Hines Phase 3 envelope repairs, Rosenwald renovation, McMain Auditorium renovation, Douglas Auditorium renovation, Timbers Office Building elevator upgrades, and adjustments based on construction cost changes for Benjamin Franklin Elementary High School, McMain High School, and Hines Phase 1 projects by $1,313,694. May I have a motion?
so moved,
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, Woody seconded.
I seconded. Woody.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments on item 5.17.
Any questions from the board? If not, roll call. Mr. Ashley.
Yes. Yes.
You're muted, Ethan.
Yes.
Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Ellison?
yes,
Mr. Cleben?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel? Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Newell Houston?
yes,
Item 5.17 passes. Next, item 5.18, McDonough 19 Hano cell ratification. That the Orleans Parish School Board approve an authorization and ratification for the sale of McDonough 19 to Hano for the appraised value, and for the president of the school board to execute an act of cash sale and all other documents in connection therewith. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
No public comments on item 5.18.
Is there any question from the board? If not, roll call. Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleben,
Yes.
Mr. Koppel,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
and Ms. Newell Houston.
Yes.
That action item passes, and that was our final action item on the agenda for today.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. We'll do a roll call vote on this too for clarity purposes. Roll call, Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison,
Yes.
Mr. Cleben,
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Newell.
Yes.
We are adjourned and the time is 3:44 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.